Alright, am I live now? Am I live? Hello, am I live? So today I've learned that if you want to schedule a stream, you have to go into YouTube and click the Start Stream button, which I did not know we had to do that. I thought OBS had that covered. Apparently they do not. Hooray for me. Alright. Well, it's only 2 pages. And we're only 15 minutes late, so apologize to everyone. I hope you are here and you're enjoying what I am doing, because I am very much unimpressed with technology right now. So, alright. That definitely would explain. Oh, Jesus. Come on, you stupid little clicker. Okay, maybe I need to do like a reboot of my computer, because this little mouse has been acting up all day. And it has been very annoying. Okay. Well, since apparently I've been reading to the wall this entire time, we shall restart at chapter 5. And I explained to the wall earlier that the reason I stopped the stream early is because the first 4 chapters are of Jonathan Harker's perspective, and the last of the chapters was a cliffhanger where he is like making a dashing escape, and when I flipped forward, it was just letters from Mina to Lucy, and they're just like cute little Victorian drama, and I felt like that would be such a downer of a thing to end the stream upon, so I just stopped there. So now we are going to read chapter 5, Letter from Mina to Lucy. Sorry, I'm just slightly very upset right now. Oh, come on. There we go. Alright. Chapter 5, Letter from Mina to Lucy. 9th of May. My dearest Lucy, forgive my long delay in writing, but I have been simply overwhelmed with work. The life of an assistant schoolmistress is sometimes trying. I am longing to be with you, and by the sea, where we can talk together freely and build our castles in the air. I have been working very hard lately because I want to keep up with Jonathan's studies, and I have been practicing shorthand very assiduously. When we are married, I shall be able to be useful to Jonathan, because what's the good of marriage if you aren't useful to your partner, am I right, guys? And if I can stenograph well enough, I can take down what he wants to say in this way and write it out for him on the typewriter, and which also I am practicing very hard. He and I sometimes write letters in shorthand, and he is keeping a stenographic journal of his travels abroad. When I am with you, I shall keep a diary in the same way. I don't mean one of those 2 pages to the week with Sunday squeezed in a corner diaries. The fact that all of that is hyphenated is just wow. but a journal which I can write in whenever I feel inclined. I do not suppose there will be much of interest to other people, but it is not intended for them. I shall show it to Jonathan some day if there is in it anything worth sharing. But it is really an exercise book. I shall try to do what I see lady journalists do, interviewing and writing descriptions and trying to remember conversations. I am told that, with a little practice, one can remember all that goes on or that one hears said during the day. However, we shall see. I shall tell you all my little plans when we meet, and I have just had a few hurried lines from Jonathan from Transylvania. He is well, and will be returning in about a week. Oh, that's quite dark, considering what we know from the previous chapters. I am longing to hear all his news. This must be so nice to see strange countries together. I wonder if Jonathan and I, shall ever see them together. There is the 10 o'clock bell ringing. Good night. Goodbye. Your loving Mina. Tell me all the news when you write. You have not told me anything for a long time. I hear rumors, especially of a tall, handsome, curly-haired man? 3 question marks. I love how it explicitly has 3 question marks. Like, this is a question that requires 3 question marks. Not 1, not 2, but 3 question marks. I'm gonna very quickly make an announcement on X, because I feel like people tried to join in on the stream and they kind of got screwed over, so were some technical difficulties, but I am live now. Currently reading Dracula. At the Tired Regular. There we go. Yeah, I am so embarrassed. I thought that if I scheduled it and I came in at a certain time, then it would just automatically hit, but apparently I was wrong. So I greatly apologize to you people. But anyways, here we go. Okay. So we just got done with Mina, and now we have our response from Lucy. Alright, letter Lucy to Mina, 17th Chatham Street, Wednesday. Very accurate. My dearest Mina, I must say you taxed me very unfairly with being a bad correspondent. I wrote to you twice since we parted, and your last letter was only your second. Besides, I have nothing to tell you. There is really nothing to interest you. Town is very pleasant just now, and we go a good deal to picture galleries and for walks and rides in the park. As to the tall, curly-haired man, I suppose it was the one who was with me at the last pop. Someone has evidently been telling tales. That was Mr. Holmwood. He often comes sees us, and he and Mamma get on very well together. They have so many things to talk about in common. We met some time ago a man that would just sorry, a little confused there. We met some time ago a man that would just do for you if you were not already engaged to Jonathan. He is an excellent party, being handsome, well off, and of good birth. He is a doctor and really clever. Just fancy. He is only 29, and he has an immense lunatic asylum all under his own care. Mr. Holmwood introduced him to me, and he called here to see us, and often comes now. I think he is one of the most resolute men I ever saw, and yet the most calm. He seems absolutely impenetrable. I can fancy what a wonderful power he must have over his patients. He has a curious habit of looking one straight in the face, as if trying to read one's thoughts. He tries this on very much with me, but I flatter myself he has got a tough nut to crack. I know that from my glass. Do you ever try to read your own face? I do, and I can tell you it is not a bad study, and gives you more trouble than you can well fancy if you have ever tried it. Considering the Victorian era, this would be like a very complex idea for a lady to be thinking about. He says I am afford him a curious psychological study, and I humbly think I do. I do not, as you know, take sufficient interest in dress. What the hell? To be able to describe the new fashions. Dress is a bore. That is slang again, but I never mind. She talks like a rich girl trying to embody the slang of her era. The slang again, but never mind. Arthur says that every day. There it is, all out. Mina, we have told all our secrets to each other since we were children. We have slept together and eaten together and laughed and cried together. And now, though I have spoken, I would like to speak more. Oh, Mina, couldn't you guess I love him? I am blushing as I write, for although I think he loves me, he has not told me so in words. But oh, Mina, I love him, I love him, I love him. There, that does me good. I wish it were with you, dear, sitting by the fire, undressing as we used to sit. I would try to tell you what I feel. I do not know how I am writing this, even to you. I am afraid to stop, or should I tear up the letter, and I don't want to stop, for I do so want to tell you all. Let me hear from you at once, and tell me all that you think about it. Mina, I must stop. Good night. Bless me in your prayers, and Mina, pray for my happiness. Lucy. P.S. I need not tell you this is a secret. Good night. L. So overdramatic. And we have another letter from Lucy to Mina. This time she actually gives a date, the 24th of May. My dearest Mina, thanks and thanks, and thanks again for your sweet letter. It was so nice to be able to tell you and to have your sympathy. My dear, it never rains but pours. How true the old proverbs are. Here I am, who shall be 20 in September, and yet I never had a proposal till today. Not a real proposal, and today I have had 3. Just fancy! 3 proposals in one day. I have never had 3 men interested in me in my life, so I guess that should be considered impressive. Isn't it awful? Oh, fuck you. I feel sorry, really and truly sorry for 2 of those poor fellows. Oh, those poor fellows. Oh, Mina, I am so happy that I don't know what to do with myself. And 3 proposals. But for goodness sake, don't tell any of the girls, or they would be getting all sorts of extravagant ideas and imagining themselves injured and slighted if it their very first day at home, they did not get 6 at least. Some girls are so vain. Yeah, you don't say. You and I, Mina dear, who are engaged and are going to settle down so soberly into old married women, can despise vanity. Well, I must tell you all about the 3. You must keep it a secret, dear, from everyone except, of course, Jonathan. You will tell him, because I would, if I were in your place, certainly tell Arthur. A woman ought to tell her husband everything. Yeah, I would agree. Don't you think so, dear? I must be fair. Men, like women, certain their wives to be quite as fair as they are, and women, I am afraid, are not always quite as fair as they should be. Yeah. Yep, them's the truth. Well, my dear, number 1 came just before lunch. I told you of him, Dr. John Stewart, the lunatic asylum man with the strong jaw and good forehead. Wait, that's all you think of him? Okay. He was very cool outwardly, but was nervous all the same. He had evidently been schooling himself as to all sorts of little things, and remembered them, but he almost managed to sit down on his silk hat, which men don't generally do when they are cool. And then, when he wanted to appear at ease, he kept playing with a lancet in a way that made him nearly scream. Yeah, girly pop, he totally wanted to bang you. He spoke to me, Mina, very straightforwardly. He told me how dear I was to him, though he had known me so little, and what his life would be with me to help him and cheer him. He was going to tell me how unhappy he would be if I did not care for him, but when he saw me cry, he said that he was a brute and would not add to my present troubles. Okay, I've heard criticism that so many movies portray Lucy as like a whore or an attention seeker, and it's like, that's not fair. She was just a girly pop existing, and she just happened to have all these men who want to marry her. And it's like, okay, nah, girly pop liked the attention, and girly pop was not a whore, but an attention whore, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it is what it is. Anyway, then he broke off and asked if I could love him in time, and when I shook my head, his hands trembled, and then with some hesitation he asked me if I cared already for anyone else. He put it very nicely, saying that he did not want to wring my confidence from him, but only to know, because if a woman's heart was free, a man might have hope. And then, Mina, I felt sort of a duty to tell him that there was someone. As you should. I only told him that much, and then he stood up, and he looked very strong and very grave as he took both my hands in his and said he hoped I would be happy, and that if I ever wanted a friend, I must count on him, one of my best. The so-called guy friend. Yes. Oh, Mina, dear, I can't help crying, and you must excuse this letter for being all blotted. Being proposed to is all very nice, and all that sort of thing, but it isn't at all a happy thing when you have to see a poor fellow whom you know loves you so honestly, going away and looking all broken-hearted, and to know that, oh, no matter that he may say at the moment, you are passing quite out of his life. My dear, I must stop here at present. I feel so miserable, though I am so happy. And here I am telling my boyfriend, Bub, I'm ready when you're ready. Just give me the frickin' ring and we can go and get married. I don't know why, but I have an irrational hatred for Lucy right now. Just that, oh, poor me. 3 men are after me and I have to choose. I mean, to be fair to Stoker, this chick does exist, but she is also very annoying. And he does very accurately characterize her here. And at this point, I am very confused why some people are be like, oh, Lucy, she's just like a cute little ingenue. She's not a whore. It's like, judging by all of this, she may not be a whore, but she is definitely an attention whore. Evening. Because, of course, poor little Lucy couldn't just write this 1.5 pages of a letter in one sitting, and she had to wait until evening to finish the letter. I am sorry, but I am very much judging Lucy right now. So badly. And it does look like the next chapter is going to be a while. So we shall see what's going to happen. Evening. Arthur has just gone, and I feel in better spirits than when I left off. So I can go on to tell you about the day. Well, my dear, number 2 came after lunch. He was such a nice fellow, an American from Texas. And he looks so young and so fresh, and it seems almost impossible that he has been to so many places and has had such adventures. I sympathize with poor Desdemona when she had such a dangerous stream pouring in her ear, even by a black man. Well, that's a thing that was said. I suppose that we women are such cowards that we think a man will save us from fears, and we marry them. I know now what I would do if I were a man and wanted to make a girl love me. Oh, this ought to be good. No, I don't, for there was Mr. Morris telling us his stories, and Arthur never told any, and yet, my dear, I am somewhat previous. Mr. Quincy P. Morris found me alone. It seems that a man always does find a girl alone, but he doesn't, for Arthur tried twice to make a chance, and I helping him all I could. I am not ashamed to say it now. I must tell you beforehand that Mr. Morris doesn't always speak slang. That is to say, he never does so to strangers or before them, for he is really well educated and has exquisite manners. But he found out that it amused me to hear him talk American slang. And whenever I was present and there was no one to be shocked, He said such funny things. I'm afraid, my dear, he has to invent it all, for if it fits exactly into whatever else he has to say. But this is a way slang has. I do not know myself if I shall ever speak slang. That is a very strange thing to say, because every language has its slang, and it's not just every language, but every class, every dialect, every region has its slang. So I just find it very strange that she says that she's never spoken slang. It's like, I guarantee you have spoken slang before, darling. You just never thought of it because you don't think of what you say as slang. Even though if you say it to someone else, they're not going to understand what you say because what you said was slang. So, I do not know if Arthur likes it, and I have never heard him use any as yet. Oh, he has definitely said it, honey. Well, Mr. Morris sat down beside me and looked as happy and jolly as he could, but I could see all the same that he was very nervous. He took my hand in his and said ever so sweetly, "Miss Lucy, I know I ain't good enough to regulate the fixin's of your little shoes, but I guess you could wait till you find a man that is you will go joining them 7 young women with the lamps when you quit." Okay, I'm gonna need to read that a second time, sorry. Alright, Miss Lucy, I know I ain't good enough to regulate the fixin's of your little shoes, but I guess if you wait till you find a man that is you willing go join them 7 young women with the lamps when you quit. Okay. Won't you just hitch up alongside me and let us go down the long road together, driving in troubled harness? Oh, this is Stoker trying to sound like a Texan. Oh, the cute little darling trying to sound like a Texan. Oh, the cute little Irishman trying to pretend he knows what a Texan sounds like. Well, he did look so good-humored and so jolly that it didn't seem half so hard to refuse him as it did poor Mr. Stewart. So I said as lightly as I could that I did not know anything of hitching, and that I wasn't broken to harness at all yet. Then he said that he had spoken in a light manner, and he hoped that if he had made a mistake in doing so on so grave, so momentous an occasion for him, I would forgive him. He really did look serious when he was saying it, and I couldn't help feeling a bit serious too. I know, Mina, you will think of me a horrid flirt. You are a horrid flirt. Though I couldn't help feeling a sort of exultation that he was number 2 in one day. Even though technically it's not the same thing as sleeping with 2 guys in one day, I definitely could understand a guy feeling really awful that he was like the second guy to propose to a girl in one day, and just like she still rejects you. It's like, oh damn. So yeah, I could feel that. And then, my dear, before I could say a word, he began pouring out a perfect torrent of love-making. Could have chosen a different word for that. Laying his very heart and soul at my feet, he looked so earnest over it, and I shall never again think that a man must be playing always and never earnest, because he is merry at times. I suppose he saw something in my face which checked him, for he suddenly stopped and said with a sort of manly fervor that I could have loved him for if I had been free. Lucy, you are an honest-hearted girl, I know. I should not be here speaking to you as I am now if I did not believe you a clean grit right through to the very depths of your soul. Tell me, like one good fellow to another, is there anyone else that you care for? And if there is, I'll never trouble you a hair's breadth again, or will be, if you will let me, a very faithful friend. Oh, Mr. Stoker trying so hard to sound Texan. My dear Mina, why are men so noble when women are so little worthy of them? Okay, I'm just speaking of my own experience with gently letting men down or gently breaking up with men. They don't take the whole we can be friends, right? thing well. So, either Lucy is dense or she knows exactly what she's doing. Here I was almost making fun of this great-hearted true gentleman. I burst into tears. I am afraid, my dear, you will think this a very sloppy letter in more ways than one, and I feel very badly. Why can't they let a girl marry 3 men? I mean, depending on the culture you're in, that's possible. Or as many as they want her, and save all this trouble. So, is Lucy just straight up admitting that, yeah, she wants her own little reverse harem? Pretty sure those men would not be happy about it, but here she's flat out admitting that she wants a reverse harem. And people wonder why Lucy has been portrayed as a kind of a slut in adaptations. But this is hearsay. I must say it. I must not say it. I am glad to say that, though I was crying... oh my goodness. I was able to look into Mr. Morris's brave eyes, and I told him out straight. Yes, there is someone I love, though he has not told me yet that he even loves me. I was right to speak to him so frankly, for quite a light came into his face, and he put out both his hands and took mine. I think I put them into his, and said it in a hearty way. That's my brave girl. It's better worth being late for a chance for winning you than being in time for another girl in another world. Don't cry, my dear. If it's for me, I'm a hard nut to crack, and I take it standing up. Okay. If that other fella doesn't know his happiness, well, he'd better look for it soon, or he'll have to deal with me. Little girl, your honesty and pluck have made me a friend, and that rather than a lover. It's more unselfish, anyhow. My dear, I'm going to have a pretty lonely walk between this and Kingdom Come. Would you come give me one kiss? It'll be something to keep off the darkness now and then. You can, you know, if you like. For that other good fellow, he must be a good fellow, my dear, and a fine fellow, or you could not love him. Hasn't spoken yet. That quite won me, Mina, for it was brave and sweet of him, and noble too, to arrival, wasn't it? Honeypot, he is not over you. He is not over you. Goodness.
Alright. And he's so sad. So I leant over and kissed him. That was a massive mistake. He stood up with my 2 hands in his, and as he looked down into my face, I am afraid I was blushing very much. He said, "Little girl, I'll hold your hand, and you've kissed me, and if these things don't make us friends, nothing ever will. Thank you for your sweet honesty to me, and goodbye." He wrung my hands, and, taking up his hat, went straight out of the room without looking back, without a tear or a quiver or a pause, and I am crying like a baby. Oh, why must a man like that be made unhappy when there are lots of girls about who would worship the very ground he trod on?
Such a vain thing to say. I am now judging all of the YouTubers who are insisting upon me that no, Lucy wasn't a trollop like she's been portrayed in media. No, Lucy was not a loose woman, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just looking at this like, Lucy knows exactly what the hell she's doing right now. She knows. We all know she knows. I mean, I appreciate the drama as a fellow uterus haver, because the drama is very spicy, but yeah, no, she's an attention whore. I'm sorry. I know I would if I were free. Only I don't want to be free. My dear, this has quite upset me, and I feel I cannot write of happiness just at once after telling you of this, and I don't wish to tell the number 3 until it can be all happy. Your ever-loving Lucy. P.S. Oh, about number 3. I needn't tell you of number 3, need I? Besides, it was all so confused. It seemed only a moment from his coming into the room till both his arms were around me, and he was kissing me. I am very, very happy, and I don't know what I have done to deserve it. I must only try in the future to show that I am not ungrateful for all his goodness to me in sending me such a lover, such a husband, and such a friend. Goodbye. Alright, so, now we get to Dr. Stewart's diary, kept in phonograph. Okay, so this is like a spoken diary thing. This is another thing from the Dracula movie. 25th May. I'm tired and appetite today. Cannot eat, cannot rest, so diary instead. Since my rebuff of yesterday, I have a sort of empty feeling. Nothing in the world seems of sufficient importance to be worth the doing, as I knew the only cure for this sort of thing was work. I went down amongst the patients. I picked out one who has afforded me a study of much interest. He is so quaint in his ideas and so unlike the normal lunatic that I have determined to understand him as well as I can. Today I seem to get nearer than ever before to the heart of his mystery. I question him more fully than I had ever done, with a view of making myself master of the facts of his hallucination. In my manner of doing it, there was, I now see, something of cruelty. I seemed to wish to keep him to the point of his madness, a thing which I avoid with the patience as I would the mouth of hell. Memo. Under what circumstances I would not avoid the pit of hell? Crap, Latin. Omnia Roma filiastum. Hell has its price. Yeah, fuck you. If there was anything behind this instinct, it will be vulnerable to trace it afterwards accurately. So I had better commence to do so, therefore. R.M. Renfield. What the hell is that? Okay, screw it. We're going to the notes. Alright, the notes. Where are the notes? Alright, come on. Notes. Oh, screw it. Okay. Alright, chapter 5. Part-time marriage phenomenon. Oh, the Omni. Alright. Roman. Everything in Rome was all up for sale. Okay. At that age. Oh, that's what that term means. Okay, so he's just flexing his knowledge on us now. Well, I could definitely see why you were rejected now, Mr. Stewart. Or Dr. Stewart. Gonna light some more stuff on fire right now. This dork has got me so frustrated I want to set things on fire. Alrighty. And... Alright, so the aged Mr. Renfield, stagnant temperament, great physical strength, morbidly excitable, periods of gloom ending in some fixed idea which I cannot make out. I presume that the stagnant temperament itself and the disturbing influence end in a mentally accomplished finish, a possibly dangerous man, secure and armored for their foes as for themselves. What I think of on this point is, when self is the fixed point, the centripetal force is balanced with the centrifugal. Okay. When duty, a cause, etc., is the fixed point, the latter force is paramount, and only accident for a series of accidents can balance it. Okay. I do not believe that he was this formal in his phonograph recording. I refuse to believe he was this formal. I would expect some more like basically what I've been doing throughout this entire stream. But oh well, he's trying to be formal, so we shall remain formal. All right, letter. Quincy P. Morse to Arthur Holmwood. Oh, this gotta be good. He's writing to the guy that he lost Lucy to. Oh, this gotta be fun. 25th May. My dear Art, we told yarns by the campfire in the prairies and dressed one another's wounds after trying a landing at the Marquise, and drunk healths on the shores of Titicaca. There are more yarns to be told, and other wounds to be healed, and another health to be drunk. Won't you let this be at my campfire tomorrow night? I have no hesitation in asking you, as I know a certain lady is engaged to a certain dinner party, that you are free. There will be only
there will only be one another. Our old pal at the Korea, Jack Stewart, is coming too, and we both want to mingle our weeps over the wine cup, and to drink a health to all our hearts to the happiest man in the wide world, who has won the noblest heart that God has made the best worth winning. We promised you a hearty welcome and a loving greeting, and a health as true as yours, as your own right hand. We shall both swear to leave you at home if you drink too deep to a certain pair of eyes. Come, yours and ever and always, Quincy P. Morris. I don't know where that accent came from. But that's like, okay, if I was Arthur, I would see that telegraph and immediately think these two men are going to murder me tonight. Like, these two men are trying to butter me up to get me alone by the campfire down deep in the forest, and next thing he knows, he's going to have a shotgun at his head. So, that's, But there is a reply from Arthur to Quincy. Count me in every time I bear messages which will make both of your ears tingle. Art. Oh, don't know if that is exactly the right thing to say. As much as I enjoyed the horror from the last couple of chapters, I'm also enjoying the absolute drama and hilarity of this chapter. It's a brief point of levity before shit hits the fan. Alright, give me a second. I need to... Where's my... Oh, there it is. Give me 2 seconds to blow my nose. Getting a little stuffy over here. Alright, so here we are, chapter 6. I don't know if we're going to get through all of this, but we'll see where we go. So now we get to Mina's journal. 24th July, Whitby. Lucy met me at the station, looking sweeter and lovelier than ever. We drove up to the house at the crescent in which they have rooms. This is a lovely place. The little river, runs through a deep valley, which broadens out as it comes near the harbor. A great viaduct runs across, with high piers through which the view seems somehow further away than it really is. The valley is beautifully green, as it's so steep that when you are on the highland, on each side, you look right across it, unless you are near enough to see down. The houses of the old town, the side away from us, are all red-roofed and seem piled up one over the other anyhow, like the pictures we see in Nuremberg. Right over the town is the ruin of Whitby Abbey, which was sacked by the Danes, and which is the scene of part of Marymount, where the girl was built up in the wall. That sounds like... hold on. That sounds like an Edgar Allan Poe story.
It was built of Walter Scott, Merriman, Canto 2. Okay, so that's a reference to an earlier text. Okay. It is a most noble ruin of immense size and full of beautiful and romantic bits. There is a legend that a white lady is seen in one of the windows. Between it and the town there is another church, the parish one, round which is a big graveyard, all full of tombstones. This is, to my mind, the nicest spot in Whitby, for it lies right over the town and has a full view of the harbour and all up the bay to which the headland called Kettleness stretches out into the sea. It descends so steeply over the harbour that parts of the bank have fallen away, and some of the graves have destroyed. In one place, part of the stonework of the graves stretches out over the sandy pathways far below. There are walks which seats beside them through the churchyard, and people go and sit there all day long, looking at the beautiful view and enjoying the breeze. I shall come and sit here often myself and work. Indeed, I am writing now, with my book on my knee, and listening to the talk of 3 old men who are sitting beside me. They seem to do nothing all day but sit up here and talk, as old farts do. The harbor lies below me, with, on the far side, one long granite wall stretching out into the sea, with a curve outwards at the end of it, in the middle of which is a lighthouse. A heavy sea walk runs along outside it. On the near side, the sea wall makes an elbow crooked inversely, and its end too has a lighthouse. Between 2 piers there is a narrow opening into the harbor, which then suddenly widens. It is nice at high tide, but when the tide is out, it shoals away to nothing, and there is merely the stream of the Esk running between the banks of sand, with rock here and there, outside the sharp edge of which runs straight out from behind the south lighthouse. At the end of it is a buoy with a bell, which swings in bad weather and sends in a mournful sound on the wind. They have a legend here that when a ship is lost, bells are heard out at sea. I must ask the old man about this. He is coming this way. He is a funny old man. He must be awfully old, for his face is all gnarled and twisted like the bark of a tree. He tells me that he is nearly 100, and that he was a sailor in the Greenland fishing fleet when Waterloo was fought. He is, I am afraid, a very sceptical person, for which I asked him about the bell at the sea and the white lady at the abbey. He said very brusquely, "I wouldn't fush muscle about them, miss. Them things be all worn out. Mind, I don't say that they never was, but I do say that they wasn't in my time. They be all very well for corners and triples and like, but not for a nice young lady like you. Them feet folks from York and Leeds that be always eating cure herons and drinking tea and looking out to buy a cheap jet would creed aught. I wouldn't muscle. Would be bothering tell the lies to them, even the newspapers, which is full of fool talk. I thought he would be a good person to learn interesting things from, so I asked him if he would mind telling me something about the whale fishing in the old days. He was just settling himself to begin when the clock struck 6, whereupon he labored to get up and said, I'm skang Anglerwood's home now, miss. My granddaughter don't like to be kept waiting till the tea is ready, for it takes me time to crumble upon the greens, for there be many of 'em, and miss, I like a belly timber sorely by the clock. I really hope I pronounced all that correctly. He hobbled away, and I could see him hurrying as well as he could down the steps. The steps are a great feature of the place. They lead from the town up to the church. There are hundreds of them, I do not know how many, and they wind up in a delicate curve. The slope is so gentle as the horse could easily walk up and down them. I think they must occasionally have had something to do with the abbey. I shall go home soon. Home, too. Lucy went out visiting with her mother, as they were only doodly calls. I did not go. They will be home by this. Having a little sip. Not gonna lie, I'm just counting the pages where something interesting happens. Don't worry, I'm not leaving my apartment anytime soon. Alright. Alright. The 25th of July. I came up here an hour ago with Lucy, and we had a most interesting talk with my old friend and the 2 others who always come to join him. He is evidently the Sir Oracle of them, and I should think must have been in his time a most dictatorial person. He will not admit anything, and downfaces everybody. If he can't out-argue them, he bullies them, and then takes their silence for agreement with his views. Lucy was looking sweetly pretty in her white lawn frock. She has got a beautiful color since she has been here. I noticed that the old men did not lose any time in coming up and sitting near. They fell in love with her on the spot. Even my old man succumbed and did not contradict her, but gave me double share instead. I got him on the subject of the legends, and he went off at once into a sort of sermon. I must try to remember it and put it down. In other words, Lucy is gorgeous and Mina is average. Like, that's one hell of a way to admit that you're average. I mean, if we're going by the Dracula movie, where it's Veronica from the Heathers. Why the hell am I blanking on her name right now? But yeah, it's from her. She's not, like, horrible looking, but she's definitely an acquired taste. Or at the very least, she's, like, more of, like, goth girlfriend. And there are guys who are not into goth girlfriend, and that's fine. But, anyway. Alright, so, sermon, girlfriend. It be all full talk, lock, stock, and barrel. That what it be, and no what else. These buns and offs and bog ghosts and bog guests and bogles and them all only to fit them in barns and dizzy woman and building. They must not be but blips. They and all grims and signs and warrants be all invented by persons and lissome buck bodies and road trousers on to skirt and schooner hoffens and get folks to do something that they don't other incline to. It makes me ireful to think of them. Why, it's them that not content with putting lies on paper and purtlings them out of pulpits, does not to be cutting them onto tombstones. Look here, all round you, in what art ye will, all them stones holding by their heads, as well as they could out of their pride, is account, simply tumbling down with the weight of their lives wrought on them. Here lies the body, or sacred to the memory, wrote on all of them, yet, and nigh half o' them they're beaten no bodies at all, and the memories of them ben't cared a pinch of snuff about much less sacred. Lies all of them, nothing but lies of one kind or another. My gog, but it'll be a queer scornment at the day o' judgment when they come tumbling up here in their death starks, all jumping together and trying to drag their tombstones with them to provide how good they was. But some of them trembling and dressing with their hands that doesn't and slippery from them lying in the sea that they can't even keep their group or limb. Yes, sir! I have absolutely no idea what the hell all that was, but yes, sir! Fun fact, I used to, way back in the day, studied abroad in Ireland, and I was close to Dublin, Ireland, but I had this roommate who was from Cork, Ireland. And if you don't know anything about the dialects of Ireland, most of the dialects of Ireland sound like off English or off Scottish, but Cork dialect is pretty much your leprechaun dialect, where you can barely understand what the hell they're saying. And even native Irish can't understand entirely what the Cork Irish are saying. And this one roommate of mine, he was such a sweet guy, but he would try to have a conversation with me, and he would go on and on and on, and I couldn't understand a dang thing he was saying. He was such a sweet guy, but I just could not understand a dang thing he was saying. I felt so bad because he was so sweet. Alright. Anyways. I could see from the old fellow's self-satisfied air that the way in which he looked round for the approval of his cronies that he was showing off. So we're not supposed to completely understand what the hell he was saying. So I put in a word to keep him going. Oh, Mr. Swells, you can't be serious. Surely these tombstones are not all wrong. Oh, crap. Yebbins! There may be a few not wrong, savin where they came out the people too good. For there be folks that do think a bomb ball like a sea, if only there be their own. The whole thing be lies. Now look, you here. You come here a stranger, and you think these Goth. I nodded, for I thought it better to ascend, though I did not quite understand his dialect. Me too, sister. I knew it had something to do with the church. He went on. And you consent that these sins be a bog folk that be happen here snod a snog. I assented again. Then that there just be the lie comes in. Why, there be schools of these laybed that be domes as old Dom's black box on Friday nights. He nudged one of his companions and they all laughed. And the dogs, how could they be otherwise? Look at that one, the first abaft the Bingo Bank. Read it! I went over and read. Edward Spenthlog, Master Mariner, murdered by pirates. Mariner. Murdered by pirates off the coast of Andres, April 1854-30. When I came back, Mr. Swallows went on. Who brought him home, I wonder, to happen him here? Murdered off the coast of the Andres. And you concerted his body lay under. Why, I could name him ye a dozen, whose bones lie in the Greenland Sea above. He pointed northwards. Or the currents may have drifted them. There be the stins around ye. Ye can, if your young eyes read the small print of the lies from here. The Brathwaite Lowry, I knew his father, lost in the livery off Greenland in 20. Or Andrew Woodhouse, drowned in the same sea in 1777. Or John Proxton, drowned off Cape Farewell a year later. Or old John Rawlings, whose grandfather laid with me, drowned in the Gulf of Finland in 50. Do you think that all these men will have to make a rush to Whitby when the trumpet sounds? I have me anthems about it. I tell ye that when they got here they'd be jumbling and jostling one another that way that it would be like a fight upon the ice in the old days, when we'd be at one another's in daylight to dark, and trying to tie up our cuts by the light of the aurora borealis. This was evidently local pleasantry, for the old man cackled over it, and his cronies joined in with gusto. But, I said, surely you are not quite correct, for you start on the assumption that all the poor people, or their spirits, will have to take their tombstones with them on the day of judgment. Do you think that will be really necessary? Well, what else be they tombstones for? Answer me that, miss. To please the relatives, I suppose. To please the relatives, you suppose. This he said with an intense scorn. How will it please the relatives to know that lies it wrote over them, that everybody in the place knows that they be lies? He pointed to a stone at our feet, which had been laid out as a slab, on which the seat was rested, close to the edge of the cliff. The lines that's all on that Throfsin, he said. The letters were upside down to me from where I sat, but Lucy was more opposite to them, so she leaned over and read. Sacred to the memory of George Cannon, who died in hope of a glorious resurrection. Interesting term. On July 29th, 1873, falling from the rocks at Candlemas. This tomb is erected by his sorrowing mother to her dearly beloved son. He was the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. He was the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. Really, Mr. Swallows, I don't see anything very funny about that. She spoke her comment very gravely and somewhat severely. Ye don't see aught funny, ha ha! But what's because ye don't go into the sorrowing mother was a hellcat that hated him because he was a crud. A regular mirror he was. He hated her so that he committed suicide in order she might get an insurance she put on his life. He blew not the top of his head off with an old musket, and he had for scattering the crows or with. 'Tweren't for crows then, for it brought the clegs and the dopes to him. That's the way he fell on the rocks, and has to hope of the glorious resurrection. I often heard him say myself that he hoped he'd go to hell, for his mother was so pious that she'd be sure to go to heaven, and he didn't want to allow where she was. So now that's the scene at any rate. He hammered with his stick as he spoke. Buck of lies, and wanted to make Gabriel cackle when you're come panting up the greens with Tombstone balanced on the hemp, and asked it to be took as evidence. That's Irish humor right there. Like, I didn't understand a crap ton of what he was saying earlier, but I do understand this. Like, that is straight up Irish humor there. Or it's like, oh yeah, it says that on his tombstone, but in reality he wanted to blow his brains out because, hey, he wanted to commit the sin to make sure he was going to hell so he wouldn't have to spend eternity with his mother up in heaven. Like, that's Irish humor right there. So there's the Irishness of Stoker. And by the way, yes, I did discover that Stoker was Irish this evening as I looked him up. I did not know what to say, but Lucy turned the conversation as she said, rising up. Oh, why did you tell us this? It is my favorite seat, and I can't leave it. And now I find I must go on sitting over the grave of a suicide. Won't harm ye, me pretty. And it make me poor Georgie gladsome to have some trim a lass sitting on his lap. I won't hurt ye. Why, I sat here off and on for nigh 20 years past, and it hadn't done me no harm. Don't ye fuss about them as lies unto ye, or that don't lie there either. It'll be time for ye to be getting scart when you see the tombstones all run away with, and places as bare as stubble field. There's cloak, and I must gang. My services to ye, ladies. And off he hobbled. Lucy and I sat a while, and it was all so beautiful before us that we took hands as we sat, as she told me all over again about Arthur and their coming marriage. It made me just a little heartsick, for I haven't heard from Jonathan for a whole month. The same day, I come up here alone, for I am very sad. There was no letter for me. I hope there cannot be anything the matter with Jonathan. The clock has just struck 9. I see the lights scattered all over the town, sometimes in rows where the streets are, and sometimes singly. They rung up the Esk and die away in the curve of the valley. To my left, the view is cut off by a black line of roof over the old house next to the abbey. The sheep and lambs are bleating in the fields behind me, and there is a clatter of donkeys' hooves up the paved road below. The band on the pier is playing a harsh waltz in good time, and further along the quay there is a Salvation Army meeting in a back street. Neither of the bands hear the other, but up here I hear and see them both. I wonder where Jonathan is, and if he's thinking of me. I wish he were there. Well, I hate to break it to you, Mina, but he's kind of also thinking of the 3 vampire ladies who were trying to suck his blood. So, sorry to break it to you. I hate to be that person to break it to you, but yeah, he's thinking of the 3 vampire ladies who are trying to suck him off. Sorry. But I think I find it funny that in the conversations about Dracula, nobody has ever mentioned this funny little discussion with the I don't know if it's an Irishman specifically. I just gave him an Irish accent just because of how he talked, but nobody mentions this, and I think that it's this conversation. It's supposed to be a point of levity, but it's also kind of like that horror movie trope where early on in the movie someone makes a joke about death, like, "Hey, we only got so long to live, might as well," or we all die anyway, so we might as well just live it up now. So I think that is what that was. That whole talk of that dude being like, "Oh, haha, you're standing over this tombstone of a guy who killed himself." It's like, first off, Irish humor, and second off, it's like that horror movie trope of, "Oh yeah, we're all gonna die anyway," before we get to the real carnage of everybody's dying. Alright, so next we're going to Stuart's diary. I think instead of stopping at chapters from now on, I'm going to stop at the end of journal entries, because I'm noticing, I noticed it especially with Jonathan's journals, where it cuts off the journals in half if it does not neatly fold into the chapters, and the chapters are kind of very unevenly broken up. So I'm just going to stop where journal or diary or letter entries end. But before that, I need another sip. One can down, 3 more to go. I'm kidding. I'm not going to drink them all on stream. We got 23 minutes left to go. Alright. So, the next diary entry is Stuart. Dr. Stuart's diary. The 5th of June. The case of Renfield grows more interesting the more I get to understand the man. He has certain qualities very largely developed: selfishness, secrecy, and purpose. I wish I could get at what is the subject of the latter. He seems to have some subtle scheme of his own, but what it is I do not yet know. His redeeming quality is a love of animals, though indeed he has such curious turns in it that I sometimes imagine he is only abnormally cruel. His pets are of odd sorts. Just now, his hobby is catching flies. He has at present such a quantity that I have not had myself to expatiate. To my astonishment, he did not break out into a fury, as I expected, but took the matter in simple seriousness. He thought for a moment that thought for a moment, then said, "May I have 3 days? I shall clear them away." Of course, I said that would do. I must watch him. The 18th of June. He has turned his mind now to spiders, and has got several very big fellows in a box. He keeps feeding them with his flies, and the number of the latter is becoming sensibly diminished, although he has used half his food in attracting more flies from outside his room. 1st of July. His spiders are now becoming as great a nuisance as his flies, and today I told him he must get rid of them. He looked very sad at this, so I said that he must clear out some of them, at all events. He cheerfully acquiesced in this, and I gave him the same time as before for reduction. He discussed me much while with him, for when a horrible blowfly, bloated with some carry-on food, buzzed into the room, he caught it and held it exultingly for a few moments between his fingers and thumb, and before I knew what he was going to do, put it in his mouth and ate it. I scolded him for it, but he argued quietly that it was very good and very wholesome, that it was life, strong life, and gave life to him. This gave me an idea for the rudiment of one. I must watch how he gets rid of his spiders. He has evidently some deep problem in his mind, for he keeps a little notebook which he is always jotting down something. Whole pages of it are filled with masses of figures, generally single numbers, added up in batches, and then the totals add up in batches again, as though he were focusing some account, as the auditors put it. The 8th of July. There is a method in his madness, and the rudimentary idea in my mind is growing. It will be a whole idea soon, and then, unconscious cerebration. You will have to give the wall to your conscious brother. I kept away from my friend for a few days so that I might notice if there were any change. Things remain as they were, except as he parted from some of his pets and got a new one. He managed to get a sparrow, and has already partially tamed it. His means of taming is simple, for already the spiders have diminished. Those that do remain, however, are well fed, for he brings in the flies by tempting them with his food. 19th of July. We are progressing. Are you, though? I mean, yes, you are progressing, but I am very concerned in how you are progressing, my dear sir. My friend is now a whole colony of sparrows, and his flies and spiders are almost obliterated. When I came in, he ran to me and said he wanted to ask me a great favor. A very, very great favor. As he spoke, he fawned on me like a dog. I asked him what it was, and he said with a sort of rapture in his voice and bearing, "A kitten! A nice little sleek, playful kitten that I may play with and teach and feed and feed and feed." Well, that's not concerning. I was not unprepared for this request, for I had noticed how his pets went on increasing size and vivacity, but I did not care that his pretty family of tame sparrows should be wiped out in the same manner as the flies and the spiders, So I said I would see about it and ask him if he would not rather have a cat than a kitten. His eagerness betrayed him, and he answered, "Oh, yes, I would like a cat. I only ask for a kitten lest you should refuse me a cat. No one would refuse me a kitten, would they?" I shook my head and said that at present I feared it would not be possible, but that I would see about it. His face fell, and I could see a warning of danger in it, for there was a sudden fierce sidelong look which meant killing. The man is an underdeveloped homicidal maniac. I shall test him with his present craving and see how it will work out. Then I shall know more. 10 p.m. Same day. I have visited him again and found him sitting in a corner brooding. When I came in, he threw himself on his knees before me and implored me to let him have a cat, that his salvation depended upon it. I was firm, however, and told him that he could not have it, whereupon he went without a word and sat down, gnawing his fingers in the corner where I had found him. I shall see him in the morning early. July the 20th. Visited Renfield very early. Before the attendant went his rounds, found him up and humming a tune. He was spreading out his sugar, which he had saved in the window, and was manifestly beginning his fly-catching again, and beginning it cheerfully, with a good grace. I looked around for his birds, and not seeing them, asked him where they were. He replied, without turning round, that they had all flown away. There were a few feathers about the room, and on his pillow a drop of blood. I said nothing, but went and told the keeper to report to me if there were anything odd about him during the day. 12 a.m. The attendant has been to me to say that Renfield had been very sick and had discarded a whole lot of feathers. "My belief is, doctor," he said, "that he has eaten his birds, and that he just took and ate them raw." 11 p.m. I gave Renfield a strong opiate tonight, enough to make him sleep, and took away his pocketbook to look at it. The thought that has been buzzing about my brain lately is complete, and the theory provided. My homicidal maniac is of a peculiar kind. I shall have to invent a new classification for him, and call him a zoophagous, life-eating maniac. What he desires is to absorb as many lives as he can, and he has laid himself out to achieve it in a cumulative way, as he has laid himself out to achieve in a he gave many flies to one spider, and many spiders to one bird, and then wanted a cat to eat the many birds. What would have been his later steps? I would almost be worthwhile to complete the experiment. It might have done if there were only sufficient cause. Men sneered at this vivisection, and yet look at its results today. Why not advance science in its most difficult and vital aspect, the knowledge of the brain? Had I even the secret of such mind, did I hold the key to the fancy of even one lunatic? I might advance my own branch of science to a pitch compared with which Burdon Sanders' physiology of Orfeur's brain knowledge would be as nothing. If only there were a sufficient cause. I must not think too much of this, or I may be tempted. A good cause might turn the scale with me, for it may not I too be an exceptional brain congenially? How well the man reasoned. Lunatics always do within their own scope. I wonder how many lives he values a man, or if at only one. He has closed the account most accurately, and today begun a new record. How many of us a new record with which each day of our lives? To me, only yesterday that my whole life ended with my new hope, and that truly I began a new record. So it will be until the great recorder sums me up and closes my ledger account with a balance to profit or loss. Oh, Lucy, I cannot be angry with you, nor can I be angry with my friend whose happiness is yours. But I must only wait on hopelessness and work. If only I could have a strong cause as my poor mad friend, where a good unselfish cause to make my work, that would be indeed happiness. Well, that's depressing. Being so heartbroken that you just focus on the one lunatic who's eating sparrows. And that's also a thing from the Dracula movie. The more I read this book, the more I'm realizing that people gave way too much crap to that Dracula movie with Keanu Reeves in it, because clearly it was doing a hell of a lot more to bring the real story of Dracula than the Bela Lugosi version. But I think that's a very good cliffhanger to end tonight. So, if you enjoyed the stream, then leave a comment, share, let me know what you would like to see in the next one. I have a Twitter here at Heather Veely. Well, Twitter/X, whatever. And you could come here to vote for the next thing that I read. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye!